Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Birds on a Blue Now. Now we are coming here today to discuss the Blues with you, and we just wanted to reinforce our commitment to this upcoming season and off season to make sure that we are covering our Blues to the best of our ability, kind of like we've seen an uptake in our Cardinals coverage. We plan to do the same. This is going to be the first video of that off-season coverage. We are going to be taking a look at the Army and Bannister press conferences, especially now that we know that Bannister is going to be our head coach for the next couple of years. Just wanted to briefly cover those press conferences, give you our takeaways from those guys, and yeah, have that begin our coverage of the off-season. We'll have some more draft coverage coming up too, thanks to one of our new contributing members, and looking forward to hopefully a much better season for our Blues as well. So, hopping in to Army's press conference, ultimately, he did project us to be vying for that, third, fourth spot in the Western Conference. Now, one of the things I don't think many of us were expecting was for the conference to be as competitive as it was. Ultimately, had we been, let's say, in the Eastern Conference, we would have had enough points to ultimately make it. Now, that does not excuse the poor performance in my mind, nor in Army's mind. And it was good to hear that he felt like this team really played up to and down to the level of its competition. And I think most of us can agree that there were times where, we were whooping top teams in the league. And then the next night or same week, we were getting trounced by some of the worst teams in the league. And it was quite perplexing to many of us. And so it's good to see that at least the front office was, feeling the same way as well. And ultimately, that is why Berube did get the axe. He felt, as much respect as he has for Berube, he wasn't getting the most out of the players. And, I love Berube as well, Chief. Thank you so much for bringing us a cup, but he was right. He wasn't able to get the most from the players anymore. And if you look at the turnaround from when Bannister took over the team, yeah, there were still a lot of issues with that. But ultimately, if we keep that pace from Bannister, we would make the playoffs even in the Western Conference. We were over 500 team. We were battling. I mean, we still lost multiple games in 1 week to the Sharks under his rule. And so I wasn't too big of a fan of that, but we'll get to that later. As far as the prospect side of thing and the young guys, he's really liking the development of our guys at the lower levels. He does expect to take time with guys like Lindy that are in the Swedish leagues, making sure that they're getting plenty of time. But, at the same time, too, if they're not going to be playing them, they're going to make sure that they're bringing them over, making sure these guys are getting the ice time to develop. But one of the nice things about, leagues like Swedish League is when these guys are playing, they're playing against grown men, so they're able to develop their game a little bit faster than, let's say, playing 20, 21, 22-year-olds and some of these juniors, they're 18-year-olds that are like high end. But, we do see that we have a lot of exciting guys like Bolda, Dean, and Neighbors. Uh, he was really pleased, as I think many of us were watching Neighbors go from a fourth liner to a third liner to essentially a 30 goal scorer. Um, you know, Kid gets to the dirty parts of the ice, and Army called that out in his press conference too. He loves the way that he gets to those zones, gets to the front of the net, and that's where he gets a lot of his goals is literally, stick away from the net. He's putting it in. So they're going to continue to see development from those guys. And Army was very keen to say that those guys that have already made it, don't expect to see them to get called down. So Dean, Bolduc, and Neighbors are here to stay for the next year and for the coming future, which is nice. Now, as far as other players' development, like Kairu, he did kind of call Kairu out, rightfully so, while also praising him, mentioning that he had stretches where he was going on and, other stretches where it seemed like nothing he could do. He could score. So Army mentions this offseason that he really wants to see Kairu develop and improve on his consistency, because ultimately we can't all agree on this. When Kairu is going, he is a lightning rod for this team. Army said so himself. I tend to agree, no matter, how frustrating his play can be sometimes. He did take steps last year, but want to see that consistency, getting that night in, night out from him. If we can do that, if he can do that, he's gonna be deadly. Him and Tomer, oh my goodness. Tomer got great call outs from Army as well. He's worth every penny of his contract. You can see from that skill that he's got that. Now, he would like to see a lot more shooting of the puck. He feels like we're getting to these great spots in the ice and we're trying to make the next perfect pass rather than shooting it. I know I myself feel like I've yelled at the TV a few times where I'm like, what are you doing? I think there was a couple times where like Butch literally got to the slot, had the puck on his stick, and he like passed it back or off to the side. It's like, what? No. So getting the team shooting more, you never know what happens when you shoot that puck on net. Ultimately, it isn't about getting the perfect shot. It's about getting pucks to the net, finding those flaws in the goalie. Yeah, sure. If the goalie's having a real solid night, you do want to, try to tease them a little more to get them out of position ultimately. But if you're not getting the puck on the net, you can't score ultimately. Was really good to see Pareko take the next step in his game and become one of the top defenders, leading the league in blocks. His time on ice, he was shutting down top lines left and right, which is good. We need that anchor on the D end. So looking forward to seeing another year of, that. Um, as far as for the rebuild and stuff like that, in his terms, 23-24 was more like year one of us getting back into it. So we need more internal growth. As far as this upcoming off season, we're going to be pretty prudent, he says, in the free agent market. They're not going to be looking to spend just to spend. He does thank ownership for, their willingness to spend to the cap, but at the same time, he's not going to just spend, trying to throw things at the wall, hoping something sticks. Now, if the right, deal opportunity comes around, he is open to taking it, which is nice. Hopefully, fingers crossed, that ends up being the case. And in regards to, free agency and trades and everything, he does run these things upstairs. He's not just, making these decisions willy-nilly. And ultimately, there are three ways you can choose to rebuild and restock. You can move picks and prospects for proven guys, which obviously stunts your future growth, but gives you the ability to move now. You can trade proven guys for basically an AHL team, kind of like what, Chicago has done, and go full rebuild ultimately. Or, and this is the plan that they want to go with, you can stick to this like slow build, moving assets when needed and developing future prospects in order to work around. And at least they're being honest with us about the situation and where the team is at. I know many of our Cardinals fans that are in here watching can agree that sometimes the transparency is nice. It's good to know where the team is at versus feeling like you're being told that you want to compete when clearly that isn't the case and everything. Last note, real quickly before we move on to the coaching sort of stuff, he did also want to give props to Hofer and Binner for becoming one of the top tandems in the league. Ultimately, he talked about how as a GM and in the front office, you got to keep more even keeled. A lot of this stuff, you can't just buy into all that noise that you get on the internet nowadays. Otherwise, you know, how many people were calling for a Binner to be gotten rid of and whatnot. And now, he showed he can be more mature, more reliable in the net, making sure that he's staying put more. And it's just good to see like that you got to keep that nice, cool head, and that we have a GM that is thinking that way instead of looking to just appease people and be kind of this like flash in the pan team where we're good for 1 year, but we have no real plan going ahead. Getting into the coaching side of things, I did want to make sure I went back and listened to this press conference specifically because there were many people out there that felt like Army may have rushed this decision to hire Bannister and whatnot. They've also felt like there might have been some other people that we should have waited on. So just wanted to listen more carefully to how he chose his words and phrasing everything. I did find it interesting now. He made it very clear, very, very, very clear in the press conference that Bannister was a finalist. Now, when I hear finalist, I think final two, final three for a position. So it was down to the edge. Now, it was a long list initially, apparently. When Berube was fired, they had a long list, and as the season went on, slowly he was crossing off names from that list of possible replacements until he said that, due to Bannister's good job, it was essentially down to him and, I take it one or two other guys. Um, he liked how Bannister, he felt, was able to push and prod the team together after everything. He wasn't turning like a blind guy to pushing young guys and help grow them, giving them more top minutes and kind of essentially throwing them to the fire. Hey, sink or swim. Let's see what you guys can do with these minutes. And it helped guys like Neighbors thrive. And for others, unfortunately, the results weren't as much there. But, you know, with everything that he wants to see that accountability and competitiveness. And as we mentioned before, the previous message with Berube for that wasn't really getting through. So as much as he hated to do it, Berube became that way to send that message that the players had let him down and they needed to get their act together. So he felt like that had done the case. And, again, Bannister swooped in, had a positive message, was able to round the guys up, and lo and behold, ends up getting the job. Now, we don't know exactly who else was in the final for running. A lot of people feel like Rod might have been one of those guys. If that was the case, it was a pretty prudent move that we locked up Bannister, as Rod ended up getting locked up as well by Carolina. So is what it is. We got our coach for the next years, and let's move on to his press conference. Now, you could tell that Bannister didn't know whether or not he was going to be coming back this upcoming season. Now, I did like his message to the reporters that he and the coaches were acting as if they were going to be back. So they had found some things looking at tape, going over a lot of the reviews, that they felt that they could make some changes systematically for the upcoming season. Really some structural changes, not just habits. but they are going to be looking to make, you know, um, changes at both ends of the ice. Now, remains to be seen what those are, but that is pretty exciting because obviously we saw that this style really wasn't fitting our guys. Now, going to be interesting to see what they do, but moving on from there, he was real proud of leadership. He said that, you know, a lot of the guys in the locker room, like Falk, Schenner, really bought into his message when he came in, and he appreciates their help bringing the team together and everything. He obviously knew a lot of the younger guys. He's come up with some of these guys like Benner. He's known for a very long time. He was the coach of Springfield, so a lot of these guys had to come through him with the Thunderbirds and whatnot. But he felt like this interim job was a real learning experience, and he appreciates the opportunity that he got from the Blues to take over during this time. And you know, he was never made any promises either that it was going to be his job. This truly came in as a temporary thing, and he was looking forward to that challenge. Again, Army clearly felt like he lived up to that. As far as why we fell short, he owned it. You know, those 6 points against the Sharks really come in big at the end of thing. The inconsistencies in the play, all important in the end. Now, he did like to see a lot of the growth. Mentioned Tomer being a proven and elite guy, getting those meaningful minutes. Also, again, talked about Binner and the growth that he's seen as him as a goalie. Him and Hofer being a top tandem in the league obviously makes it a little easier on him, but his goal for this upcoming year is really to make it easier on them. They were saving our asses night in, night out, it seemed like, and you know, buying the team time to get things going. So he just wants to make it easier on them this upcoming year with how we play, how we defend. So looking forward to that. And you know, really last thing that I was excited to hear about is he mentioned how we got kind of like what Army was did, mentioned how we got too cute a lot of the time. And not just on offense too, in defense. You know, those cute little passes where we're trying to get out of the zone and start a breakaway, but we're not looking where we're passing to. So we're missing guys, and it's leading to turnovers, leading to goals, leading to odd man rushes. So, you know, just making sure we are more direct with the puck, where we're going, and moving that puck more. He doesn't want that to be hanging on guys' sticks as much. He wants the guys to be moving and the puck to be moving with them. So all in all, some exciting things. Like I said earlier, I do kind of agree. I saw us kind of being, I think, around 94, 96 points, and I thought that would be enough to get the last wild card spot. The West was just real tough. There's a lot of teams in a different spot, and you know, a lot of the West teams were able to beat up on those teams that are full rebuild, like Arizona and Chicago, and take them for a lot more points. So we'll be curious to see what happens the rest of the off season. Like I said, we are going to be expanding our Blues coverage, so hope you all are excited for that as well. Going to be dropping a top wish list for draft prospects for the upcoming year and a few other things as we get closer to the draft. So be on the lookout for that, and we'll see you all next time. Have a great rest of the day. Take care.